Hello everybody, Flyaway Jay here and welcome to leg 16 of my Nordic trip around Iceland and various other Nordic countries. Today we are in Hornafjordur Airport. I hope I'm not messing that pronunciation up, and we're going to be going to Egilsstadir Airport, which is at the northern sort of side of Iceland. We're going to be traveling in the pretty generic Charlie 172 Walker Air livery. Weather today is not that great. Currently 14 degrees, 10 knot winds, and we're gonna have to travel over those hills to get to where we need to go today. So hopefully the Charlie 172 can keep up with what we need to do. Pretty short flight, actually, 63 nautical miles. Shouldn't take us much longer than 40-45 minutes to get there. Takeoff today. Going to be taking off in a northerly direction, left turn out over the city, or the town I suppose, which you can just make out there in the background, and then from there we're going to turn left and try and weave our way across the mountains. Without further ado, let's get this aircraft started and get going. First things first, let's make sure the parking brake is set, which it is. Fuel selector valve should be on both. Fuel shut-off valve pushed in, absolutely. Throttle, 1/4 inch in. Mixture should be at idle cutoff. Let's hit the master switch. Battery and alternators on. Turn the beacon on so that people know we're going live here. Fuel pump on. And we just richen the mixture. And then idle cutoff. Fuel pump off. Okay, let's give it some mixture so we can get the engine started. And then go rich. Okay, engine is started. Happy days. Throttle should be 1200 RPM. Okay, turn on some lights, nav lights, taxi lights, avionics master switch can come on. Altimeter, let's set that to the local QNH, which at the moment is 1008. That's that over there. Pitot heat for sure. I think we're going to go through some cold weather today, possible icing conditions. Let's set our flaps for takeoff. One stage should be perfect. Elevator trim, let's set that for takeoff. Just about right. Flight controls, let's check for free and correct. Full left, full right, up, down. Looks like we're good, free and correct. Mixture is full rich, and let's go. Gonna make a sharp taxi here to the left. Parking brake can come off. Sorry, my dude. Interesting bump that we have on the apron there. Just looking at my Volanta map, it doesn't look like there's any other traffic in the area, so what we're going to do is just get straight onto the runway and backtrack all the way to the opposite end and get set up for the takeoff. So I'm going to maintain the center line. While we're taxiing, we can set up the autopilot. These G1000s really are quite cool. 9,000 foot altitude. We're going to be following the GPS track almost the entire way, except for the initial part where I'm going to try and get us around these mountain tops. I don't think we'll be able to climb to a sufficient altitude before we are into those mountains, so I'm going to try and avoid them as much as I can. Might get quite bumpy today. Hopefully we can maintain some sort of normal flight as we go through these bumpy clouds, and hopefully even see some scenery. My weather map doesn't seem to indicate too many clouds, however what I'm seeing in the sim at the moment looks a bit different. So let's see how we go. Like I say, it shouldn't be too long a flight. It's quite a short distance. Hopefully the weather on the other side is also okay. I'm just going to tune into the VATSIM uncontrolled frequency 122.8, swap that around. Maybe we hear someone, but like I said, I can't see anyone on the map. There's also no controllers anyway. Okay. Let's get a line up here. There we go, lined up runway 36. So I don't know if you guys can remember, but when I came in to land, I had to come over those mountains for runway 18, and it was a bit of a close call, came a bit low, but made it in the end. Beautiful approach. Go and check out that video. Alright, just want to set my transponder quickly. Set it to alt, my code 22. Nope. 2200. There we go. Alt, code, enter back. Okay, we can taxi light can come off, landing light can come on, strobe can go on. Just going to set the runway heading. We're going to try and maintain that after takeoff. Okay, good to go. There's full power. Airspeed's alive. Temperatures and pressures are green. There's rotation speed. Alright, you can see that wind turning us a bit. I'm going to just try and maintain runway heading for a bit until we get to an altitude. Flaps can come up. Hit the brakes. Okay. .700 foot. Maintain runway heading. And I'm just going to turn us. Okay, there is an aircraft. Looks like an Airbus A320, 38,000 foot. Nice to see. Just want to get some altitude before we try and cross these mountains. You'll see why in a minute or so. Can actually increase the V speed a little bit while we got the energy. Landing light can come off. There's the sleepy little town of Horn. Gonna try and get over that little gap in the mountains there. Which is much better than the alternative of trying to go over that area over there. Not ideal. We're going to be slightly off the GPS track, but I'd rather be slightly off than struggle to get over that mountain. I'm going to decrease my climb rate a little bit so I can get some airspeed. Power is looking good, flaps are up, aircraft's clean. Can't really hear any traffic, so we should be good. On the right hand side you can see the G1000 indicating the topographical map showing how high we are in relative to the ground. Black areas are we safe, green is that there's a bit of mountain, red obviously being the extreme. I think that means it's higher than us. So the higher we go, the less green, yellow and red we should see. There's the runway we just took off from. Beautiful scenery. Microsoft Flight Simulator just makes traveling the virtual skies so unique. Also helps having other live pilots in the air with you. You can see on the right here the red dots or the red colors are starting to decrease, meaning that we're getting safer and safer. But if you turn the range slightly more out, you can see where the problem areas lie. So as soon as we get these areas turning yellow or green, we should quite safely be able to cross over those mountain ranges. Don't want to get too far off track. But it's definitely going to get bumpy. So there's one little red dot on our track and it has just disappeared, so I think we can now quite safely start turning left. Also helps on the left hand screen having the synthetic vision showing us what we're flying over. I do suspect it's going to get quite bumpy. It would be quite nice if we can get above these clouds. At least we don't have to look at nothing the whole way. Maybe we can see something. Here we go. Here's the bumps. It's going to decrease the climb rate to about 500 foot per minute, 400 even. Oops, there we go. $60 knots is quite slow for the climb. It's going to decrease it even further, 200 foot per minute. As you can see, we're actually in a descent at this point. And that's pretty much just the wind coming over the mountains. Possible rotors pushing us down. I'm actually surprised the autopilot didn't disconnect there. Airspeed coming back up. Whoop, here we go. Just gonna keep this hitting. Try and go for that gap in the clouds. And then from there try get back on the GPS track. I like to do all my flights live weather, live time, live traffic. That adds so much more realism to it. I do also fly in VATSIM. That's the most real. You know, it's always nice being controlled by an air traffic controller and speaking to other traffic in the area. Particularly being able to see and coordinate the movements of aircraft is quite cool. I'm still getting used to flying with the IFR rules and whatever else, but VFR is quite fun. Making good, climbing quite well, good speed. I am still at full throttle, but my temperatures and pressures are looking good still. Fuel is okay, should get us there. Just really want to get over these mountain ranges so we can get past these bumps. Turning to get closer to the track. We're about 4.17 nautical miles off the track, so it's going to take us some time to get there, but all the while we're pointing in the right direction and getting closer to our destination. There we go, there's some blue sky. Oh, that's a mighty cloud. You can see what we've been flying over. As a pilot, probably not the greatest decision to take off in these types of conditions, but as an adventurer trying to finish this tour, we've got to do what we've got to do. Interestingly, the next rad doesn't seem to show these clouds. And I mean, it shows quite a clear bit of weather. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but we should be fine. Closing in on that track. So I also bought the WB-SIM172 SP enhancement pack. I'm going to try that out soon, see how it works, see how it differs. It seems like it completely replaces the classic Charlie 172 in the flight sim, sort of in your aircraft list. So you can only fly the G1000 if you have, or the WB-SIM 172. It looks like the default 172 completely gets replaced. But I mean, what it does do for you apparently is, from an electrical perspective, you have dynamic battery voltage drops, correct ammeter displays, external charging if that's kind of what you're after, accurately working relays, battery amperage, which is subject to temperature fluctuations, functional circuit breakers, which is quite cool. I mean, you don't often see any functional. You can see nothing here. Seems to work. And which can also trip if you have faulty equipment, which, as we know, in older aircraft they do tend to trip. From a cockpit perspective, one of the cool features is that it can save 90 different points, meaning that if you leave your, what's a good example, your QNH set to something particular, when you come back into the aircraft, it'll be at that same QNH, so 90 different things will be saved. New animations from like a gyro perspective, custom lighting, which dims depending on how the aircraft voltage changes. The gauge needles are subject to engine vibrations. ADF needle has noise. We don't have an ADF on this aircraft as far as I know. Working cabin heat and defrost, I think that's got something to do with the passenger comfort levels. There's some sort of a measure on the in the aircraft that shows you how comfortable your passengers were. What else is there? Custom coded autopilot. I always seem to struggle with the autopilot on the default Cessna 172. Not sure why. Either it violently pitches up or pitches down depending on what I'm trying to do. So hopefully that's been improved. Accurate fonts on the Bendix units, which is cool. And the other thing is the engine management part. While I'm talking, why am I dropping my speed so hectically? 60 knots is quite low. Just want to stay on top of that. Got about 500 feet to climb. It shouldn't be going that slow though. What is going on here? Am I experiencing icing? What's going on? Why is my speed dropping so much? Pitot heat on? Wow, I'm actually quite near a stall here. Just going to drop the nose a little bit so we can... Oh, it's my mixture. That's why. I was flying full rich. And that's something that the WB-SIM 172 will actually model quite accurately. Gosh, I was losing quite a bit of power there. And it was all because my mixture wasn't set properly. There we go, almost at 9,000 foot. Thank goodness for that. Well, speaking of that, the mixture on the WBSM 172 is subject to spark plug fouling, general engine wear. Your engine priming system is functional. It also allows your starter to overheat if you use it too much, or if you use the starter without starting the engine properly. And your oil usage is also quite accurate. You also have simulated damage. I've seen a couple of people do some hard landings, breaking off a nose wheel, clipping the prop, all that kind of stuff seems to be modeled. Struts can get ripped from the fuselage after too many hard landings. So all in all, it seems like quite a well thought out and quite realistic setup. You know, I'm actually going to try and get above these clouds also, so I'm going to maybe go to 11,000 just on a slow climb. Vertical speed up. Now that I got some power back. Sure, that was a really close call with that mixture setting. There's a couple of people in the area. I wonder where Tehran is. Let's check if I can see. You can just see on my windshield there's some icing starting to develop. Just want to get on top of these clouds. Getting also quite close to the GPS track. As soon as we get close to it, I'll turn it on, I mean, so that the aircraft can just start following the GPS track and not the heading that I've set, which is currently what we're doing. As you can see, it's slowly creeping closer. If you zoom in on this, you can kind of see what I mean. Oh, I see a controller has just come alive in Reykjavik, which is quite cool. Still quite bouncy, even though we're fairly high. Okay, navigation is on. Aircraft will now follow the GPS track. Seems like the icing has disappeared. At least we're out of the clouds now. See a little bit of the Icelandic scenery. So just from a flat panning perspective, I'm going to start my descent when we get to Baula, the Baula checkpoint, which shouldn't be too far. It's about 12 minutes. At the 12 minutes we'll enter a pretty decent descent, get us down to 1,000 foot. The airport elevation is at, I think, 67 feet, so really quite low. I don't even know if we're going to be at 11,000 by the time we get to Paolo at this rate, but I'm sure we will. What a beautiful machine. One of the most successful aircraft ever built. 44,000 units. I think the first flight or the first prototype was flown in 1960 something. It's a very, very, very well tested and tried aircraft. Another 2 minutes till we hit 11,000 foot. Cruise for probably another 9 minutes after that, and then we can start our descent. Glad we managed to save that mixture issue. Seems like we're doing okay now. See if I pull it slightly back, if I can get an extra 10. No. I think I had it good. 2550 seems like 2540 RPM at full throttle seems like the max I can do at this point. Looking at my map, there's quite a few people flying to Keflavik. The controller is active there, so from a VATSIM perspective, it makes sense that everyone kind of flocks there. Keflavik is pretty much over there somewhere, so one of these two aircraft here is the one I'm seeing on my Volanta map. Beautiful day up top here. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to descend back into this soup. I just hope the approach is fine. Hopefully I can do a VFR approach and not have to do an instrument approach. Although, judging by what the weather looks like, I don't think that's going to be possible. I'm just amazed sometimes when you just watch these clouds develop. Microsoft and Asobo have done a really great job of just modeling the world. I never get tired of it. I can only imagine in 20 years time or 10 years time what it's going to be like. Also, it seems like the graphics card prices have come down significantly, so I think those 40 series cards are pretty much going to allow us all to just set it to maximum or ultra and just enjoy the beauty that is this sim. It's looking very wintry down there. Just gonna come back on the throttle slightly. 2300 RPM. Our true airspeed's 123 knots, so I am really flying fast. Well, for a Cessna 172, of course. 2300 is pretty decent. Slightly more, just want to maintain 2300. Every time I plan in this aircraft, I plan for about 100 knots actually. Makes the calculations quite easy. Hundred knots airspeed, of course. Ground speed can vary. That's okay. 107 knot true airspeed. Speed over the ground currently is 93 knots. Once we hit Barlow, I'm going to start the descent over there. This will pretty much line us up straight for the runway. It's got a cool feature. You can kind of lean your mixture as you need to. You can kind of see the peak and the drop off here if you look at the RPM needle. Fuel's still looking good. System, engine management is over here. Everything looks pretty decent. Ground speed dropping to 88 knots. Outside air temperature 8 degrees. Where we headed, currently 9 degrees. Wind straight out the north, 15 knots, currently IFR, unfortunately. So we're going to have to do an instrument approach, which is fine. No problem. This is a perfectly instrument capable aircraft. That's the pilot you got to worry about. So now, if you're wondering where the airport is, if you see this on the main screen, that green ball, pretty much directly underneath it is where we headed. And that's why I can start my descent in 3 minutes. It's really quite incredible how well this is modeled. I mean, if you zoom into these instruments, it's just unbelievable, the detail. Anyways, I digress. Alright, let's start our descent. Altitude, we're going down to 1,000 foot. Vertical speed Just gonna manage that speed. I don't want to go too fast. Just gonna keep on maintaining that 100 knot airspeed. Aircraft will automatically start to turn and follow those GPS tracks laid out there on the right hand screen. Will line us up perfectly for runway 3. What I'm trying to achieve is a landing rate less than 100 feet per minute. So let's see what I can get today. Yeah, I don't know. This weather radar doesn't seem to be super accurate today. Unless I'm just misunderstanding it. Alright, we're about 10 seconds away from the Bowler checkpoint. Gonna start a gentle turn to the left. And there we go. Taking us all the way down to runway 3 at Egilsstadir Airport. Wondering what it looks like where we're headed. It's going to come back a little bit more in the speed. We're going to set the QNH for the local airport 1011, and it's roughly there. Come back even more on the airspeed. And then once we turn right, we pretty much lined up with the runway 03 at Egilsstadir Airport. Less than a minute till the turn. It looks like back into the soup we go. Hopefully we can pop out the clouds and see the ground, and then it's not a complete IFR approach. Category 3 or something like that. Zero visibility. Pretty hopeful that we'll see something. Airspeed's still good. Temperatures and pressures are good. Pretty much line up with runway 3 right now. Just gonna keep on this descent until we hit 1,000 foot. "4,000 feet. Hey, I can see the ground. We might be okay from an approach perspective. Although the airport still is IFR according to the weather. "3 degrees outside, minimal risk of icing. Awesome, breaking out. Or not. We should be able to see the airport right in front of us soon. Am I imagining runway lights? I think I am. I think I can see the runway. Just on the other side of that lake. There we go. I can see the flashing runway lights now. Mixture going to full rich. I'm going to try and maintain 100 knots until we get a little bit closer. Hey, there's another aircraft right in front of me. You can just make out the lights. At least there's a lot of places to land here if you have an engine out. Which I'm hoping to see, or experience with the WB-Sim 172. Hopefully due to a failing system and not due to how badly I fly. So there's that. 1,000 foot coming up. Okay, at this stage, landing lights can come on, taxi lights can come on, fuel pump just in case we have to do a go around. Both on, mixture full rich, throttle's good. Okay. Wait for that speed to settle down. I'll drop my first stage of flaps. Here we go, and the strip. First stage of flaps goes down. You can see how the nose is able to angle a little bit down once you got flaps. Gives you a bit of extra visibility, which is a nice feature. Still someone on the runway. There we go, Foxtrot X-Ray India 66. Don't want to drop below 76. I maintain 80 all the way in. The world just feels so alive with all these other aircraft and traffic in the sky. It's really amazing to see. Not sure what aircraft that is, but he is really flying. What is that? Some sort of a, looks like a twin prop maybe? Well, there's our airport. That's what we're going for. Next stage of flaps. I want to maintain at least 70. At this point I'm going to turn off the autopilot. Just get set up. Third stage of flaps can go down. Got 2 white, 2 red puppy lights on the glide slope. Just get safely trimmed out here. There we go. Comfortably trimmed, speed is good, 80 knots is fine. Mixture full rich, brakes checked. Fuel is good, fuel pump is on. Lined up with the runway. Oh, there's some wind. Wind is coming just off the tip of off the left hand side. 14 knots at this point, 15 knots. Just gonna nose her in slightly into the wind.
500.
looking good so far. Don't want to be too low over that highway. There we go, back on this glide slope. .73 knots is good. Welcome to Egilsstadir Airport. I think I'm just going to slow down here so we can backtrack. Bring the flaps up. Just going to do a nice smooth right hand turn as soon as we slow down. Flaps are up. Okay, here we go. Just do a nice smooth turn here. And backtrack on the runway. Don't see any other traffic. Also an uncontrolled airport. And turn off the fuel pump now. Transponder can come off. Onto standby. Landing lights can come off. Well, there you have it. We made it nice and safe. Some bumpy moments coming over those mountains, but we're in Egilsstadir finally. It was a nice little flight. I had fun, nice and short. I must say the scenery up here is really beautiful and the weather is quite amazing. Don't know where I'm going to go after the Nordics, maybe the tropics. SkyTeam jet parked over here. I'm actually just going to come in straight next to this jet parked over here. Parking amongst the big boys. Cool, parking brake on. Flaps are retracted. Let's turn off all the lights. Lights. Beacon can stay on. Parking brake is on. Pitot heat can come off. Stereo lights are all off. Avionics master goes off. Mixture to idle cutoff. Ignition goes all the way off. Battery master off. Well, there you have it. Welcome to Egilsstadir. Beautiful little town, I'm assuming, in Iceland. Got some traffic. was a bumpy trip, but I think we had to do it. We're adventurers. My name is Flyaway Jay, and thank you so much for joining me. Like and subscribe if you want to follow me around the Nordics for now. Who knows where I'm going next, and who knows when I'm flying next. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good evening. Bye.